Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the CARPL Unboxing AI stage at RSNA Day 2. We have a really interesting panel going on. So we have a cardiac AI panel, and with me, I have Dr. Amit Gupta. He's the Division Chief Cardiothoracic Imaging at University Hospital Cleveland. I have Dustin, he's the CEO of EchoIQ. I have Nathan with me, he's the founder of Qinnovativ, and I have Dr. Xiao Chen. He's the Director of Clinical Research and Collaboration at United Imaging Intelligence. Over to you, Dr. Amit.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for this invitation. And it's so amazing and so fulfilling to talk about my favorite topic. So no AI is perfect, and we know that. And in the cardiac space as well, there's a lot of action happening right now. And we will dive into calcium scoring, cardiac MRI, echo, post-PCI planning, and some novel topics as well. But I just wanted to start with the bread and butter, coronary calcium scoring, which is the most validated application. And now AI is not only measuring it on the gated scans, but also on the non-gated scans and getting the similar information and getting clearances. So I just wanted to open with that. What's your perspective of where the field is going on the calcium scoring beyond detection? Because detection is like we have 3 FDA-approved tools or even more than that. I don't want to disrespect anyone. So we can start with Dustin. How you think that this is going to evolve?
Well, it's interesting. I think what we're seeing is the health systems as well are trying to evolve along with the technology, and probably not nearly as fast and never will be as efficient. But I think what we're seeing is the struggle with the healthcare teams or the healthcare systems is what kind of committees do you put in place to value whether this is an ROI back to the hospital? Some things that are nice to have aren't necessarily need to have. And so we're seeing many of the systems trying to adapt for that, putting AI committees in place, looking at IT security. So I think as a business and as a technology companies, we have to evolve with them to help them understand the value of what we're bringing.
Oh, that's exactly. And again, I'm a workflow guy. So maybe Xiao can continue the journey on the workflow here.
Yeah, sure. So I think as in United Imaging Intelligence, we have developed, applications by applications for different aspects throughout the body for different modalities for actually starting from 2017. That's right before the peak of the current, deep learning era. And after so many years of accumulation of technologies and also, the interactions with the doctors, the hospitals, we're actually moving on to the next stage, we think, which is to put the workflow and the technology together. So right now, what we already have the solutions is that instead of the doctor using, deciding which application AI algorithm to use to look at what body parts, right? We just let the doctors, just as a radiologist, they look at the chest CT, at the same time, all the slices. The algorithm, what we call it, is based on foundation model, large models. It will look at all the images together, and then it will give all the findings, not just limited to, let's say, calcium scores or pulmonary nodules. It will just go all of them, and it will have the image findings and the impressions. So basically, we think that's more like, instead of like being a tool, like AI tools here and there, it more become like assistance.
So basically, what you are touching on is a broader AI rather than a narrow AI that we live in. Mm-hmm. But again, there is a counter to that as well. So you find 15 findings for me, but I'm a radiologist. I will be impressed, but I'll run in the opposite direction because who will tackle those 15 findings? So basically, what is high yield and what is the benefit to the patient stays there, right? So that's why the workflows, fetching the information from EMR, amalgamating that information and kind of presenting to the radiologist in a fashion that he or she can assimilate and help the patient without breaking the bank of 5 p.m. going to the home kind of a situation. So again, the real world application of AI is definitely starts from pixel. You find the stuff, but what happens after that is kind of very important, as you alluded to, and you are detecting maybe 25 findings now, the triaging or something. Maybe Nathan can add more to his perspective on the downstream impact of calcium score we started with. Maybe we can dive into the plaque as well, because plaque is now a refined version of calcium scoring. Some FDA approvals are happening, some are around the corner. So, Nathan, if you can,
Yeah. So sorry. Just one point is that. So I think you have brought a very important point here. That the workflow is just not a stack of AI results, right? Because simply you can do is that, let's say you have 5 AI applications, you can just combine them together, right? That's not what this model, I mean, our view in this is actually a comprehensive view of the result, and it's learning what the radiologist is looking at. So it's not just like simple list of the findings. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have two perspectives to add. And one thing is like on the front end research side, our portfolio companies with the global clinical, like Yale, like UW Medicine, we are actually challenging with photon counting CT the current calcium scores meaning. And then that's kind of like really interesting because with photon counting CT you can see more. And then we're actually training AI that, okay, using with contrast diet images and then removing the contrast diet,
like virtual non-contrast
diet, and can we have less lumen? Because if you have contrast diet, you see it's a way much higher lumen, so you don't see the calcium actually that way. So we challenge the current calcium score on the really front-end research side. Right? Can we redefine calcium scoring by using non-contrast virtual CT? Right, that's one way. And down the line, we're talking about the workflow and talking about post-processing and with integrating with FFR, plaque, FAI, pericoronary fat analysis, and with current calcium scoring, we were able to automating the whole process. So you're not only looking at individual scoring, but also have a whole LM system helping the make decisions, which means that, okay, what does the latest guideline do? We're talking about evidence, right? So you're combining the real time, the latest publication, which what you find today with on that patient and make a decision.
Yeah, so there are a lot of applications, and from the customer perspective, which I'm a customer here trying to use AI. There are 3 companies promising me 3 different things or better than other, and I think in my practice, that's where the platform-based approach comes handy as well. So as a customer, if you sell me calcium score, you are selling me something. I think there are now opportunities like CARPL and other platform solutions which let you try and buy. And that's my motto. I'm not going to buy anything before trying as well. So how you are presenting yourself at these platforms, that's my second question. Any AI, we are now going broader. So if you have 3 AI tools from 3 different vendors, and there's a company where I have to do a single integration, I don't want to know the nitty-gritty details. How will you narrow down my job beyond the detection and present like, oh, we are not only FDA approved, or we not only find your plaque or calcium, as you alluded to, we add something more to that. And something more is making our life of our navigators easy. Our PCPs should get the information when they need it, right? And coming back to the same thing. So, Dustin, how you see the future of kind of like a platform-based approaches and comparison of multiple tools in the present world where a customer does not know everyone has a AUC of 0.95 and above?
Yep.
So,
yeah, and I think this is now kind of one of the biggest challenges we're seeing. And as I alluded to earlier, I think the systems are trying to say, I can't do 100 one-offs. I can't do that. I can't sustain that. It's not fiscally responsible for us to do it. And the other is we just don't have the manpower to do that. So I think you're going to have to see platforms come back into play. There's no question about it. The question is, can an individual kind of collaborator bring the right tools to the customer, or do you end up with 50 collaborators bringing different tools to the customer? So I think that's where the challenge is. And we've seen a few companies already do that, where they've brought a few tools, but those weren't effective tools. And then you actually ruin the benefit of what you're trying to do. So I think there's a lot of growing here that has to be done, a lot of experimenting in terms of what's right. But at the end of the day, you have to have a tool that works. You have to have a tool that has an ROI to it, and ultimately enhances the workflow, as you said. Because as soon as you start to do that and disrupt it, you're done. You're never going to be able to get the hospital or any physician to buy into the technology. So I agree with you. It's just we're not there yet, I don't think.
This is fantastic. And again, we all resonate to that. We can start with the next segment, which is kind of like going beyond calcium score. And we talked a little bit about plaque.
Yes.
It's an evolving literature right now, right? Plaque and hemodynamic significance, we call it CT-FFR. Let's club it together, and maybe Xiao can start with the plaque component of the story and the hemodynamic component. And we will jump onto Nathan for post-intervention PCI planning, which is futuristic at present moment. But I think companies are trying to make it realistic as well. Since it's an AI panel, let's try to see what's along the horizon as well. So plaque and hemodynamic significance, where we stand and what are the opportunities?
Yeah, I think for the plaque analysis, I mean, that is getting harder in US because of the regulation, the reimbursement. From UI, what we have is that basically now we allow the user to see the results just within a minute. And that is just on the site and it's on premise. So which means that the data does not need to leave the hospital. You don't need to send the data to some, outside and wait for maybe hours to get the result. And if you don't like the results, you see that, the coronary reconstruction is not to the perfect. You can change it and then relaunch the plaque analysis. Within seconds, you get it. And within 1 minute, you get the FFR analysis, the CT-FFR analysis on the site.
So are you in US working on FDA approval for that? Because right now the current solutions take few hours at the top to get the hemodynamic information back. So where are you heading? Like will be revolutionary if I can get my CT-FFR in a minute, which is the biggest bottleneck for me. I do my coronary CT, then I do nothing for 2 hours or 1.5 hours. And so that's a great opportunity actually for AI.
It is a great opportunity, but also there are challenges in this domain. I think everyone knows that there are patent-related issues in this domain. So we do have a different solutions as the current, the patent technique. So what we're working on that. We do have the FDA for the CCTA, and we have CE clearance for that as well. So for the FFR, we're working on that. Yeah.
All right, Nathan.
Yeah.
What you have to offer beyond the hemodynamics rather than future of hemodynamics, like because a person, just to set the stage, a person comes for a coronary CT or any study, we say you have a CT-FFR of 0.6 in this vessel, which means it's ischemia equivalent. And in a CAD-REDS category, we have an I descriptor for it. Yes. Then the person goes to cath lab, which is the real merit of CT-FFR to reduce the people going to cath lab. How you change the life there with AI after that journey. So just give us a brief.
Okay, so just from today offering perspective, so my portfolio companies and partner companies are able to offer real-time FDA-approved, cleared, compliance system cleared FFR, CT, and plaque solution that is also reimbursed at this point in US. And additionally, we have pre-FDA cleared and approved algorithm that focus on PCI planning, CT guided.
Can you elaborate on that? What this algorithm does for general public?
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, for the agnostic AIs, CARPL is already on CARPL's platform, right? I don't need to explain too much more about. For the PCI, the interventional cardiology, we see that there's a strong collaboration in the future between the radiologists and the cardiologists and interventional cardiology in the US, right? And using CT-based data that's offered from FFR, CT, plaque, FAI, that helping the diagnostic imaging able to see where's the strongest conclusion. If you have a CTO, you have almost zero FFR, and then there's really unstable plaque. And for interventional guys, about planning, how can I de-risking myself? So if I put this stent here, if I have a bifurcation, if I have it's an anterograde, retrograde approach to approach the CTO. We have top interventional cardiology in the country working with us, actually manually labeling the data themselves and supply us with the data to do AI training.
No, that's the important part of it, garbage in, garbage out. And
exactly.
As you mentioned, the hemodynamics are very tricky once you have to predict what will happen after you place a stent. So again, that's a good news for the science as we move forward, not only saying that you have ischemia, but what are your odds of getting better? So I think we spent a greater time on calcium score, plaque, CT-FFR a little bit. Anything else that we might be missing in the CT world that is happening in the AI, in the cardiac space? Because I've heard things about like delayed enhancement happening on the CT scan. You are a photon counting proponent, and photon counting CT can bring some more information around cardiac. So cardiac or vascular aortic measurements AIs do, and that must be in your portfolio somehow. So how you see that in adjunct to the coronary calcium scoring? Xiao, we can start with you on that.
Sure. So one domain I think in the CT is that CT becomes more like MR. So you have the spectrum analysis there. Then you have different contrast that is available, just as you're looking at a MR scanner. Now this brings both the opportunities and challenges. Is that now the CT radiologist will say, "Come on, you give me so many CT images. I already tired of the cardiac MR images. Now I need to understand what is the CT contrast, right?" So this brings the challenge, and I think that's where the workflow, the AI into the workflow can play a part in this. That we develop AI not by just looking at single modality or single contrast. We look at everything at the same time, reach comprehensive results. I think that's going to help more for the radiologist or cardiologist when they're reading. Otherwise, they're going to choose, they're going to be the sort of have the technical mind, there to say, oh, because this is this contrast, so I want to use, transformer for this, or this is using a CNN for this. They should be free from that, right?
No, definitely. There's a lot of wiggle room in that. But I think with CT, the opportunity starts from calcium, move on to plaque, hemodynamics, post-treatment, and beyond. Others are distant second, third, because cardiovascular disease we know is the biggest killer of mankind now, even surpassing oncology and other things as well. So let's change gears a little bit. We have spent enough time on CT. How you feel about calcium? I come back to calcium because it's so lucrative. What's your take on calcium scoring on routine X-rays? There's a work going on because it will not help only the privileged people, but all the third world countries. Even in this country, we cannot provide CT scanning to everyone. So have you guys done anything exploratory work on a Gadsden score equivalent on the calcium score on the X-rays, dual energy X-rays, anything fancy? If our audience wants to hear about that, maybe anyone can take that.
I mean, I can start with Dustin. I think from now I put my investor hat on because we are investors for actually. So we see a lot of development in echo and AKG. So using AKG data, echo data to do low cost, primarily early stage assessment. And to that point, one of our portfolio companies called Heart.io, and then they are able to deliver the same result like CT-FFR plaque just with AKG data. And then same assessment. So it means like you suddenly have a $10,000 bill that reduced into $20 bill in the future.
Definitely, that is important, getting maximum from the same examination. There is a fancy term for that called opportunistic screening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A person comes into the door getting one scan for, say, lung cancer screening. We give them a free calcium score with it. That's opportunistic screening or vice versa.
Exactly.
No, that's good. Anything to add on that, Xiao? And
So in the X-ray domain, currently we're most meeting our clients, the hospitals need that is in their situation. So not so much on the cardiac. We do offer these solutions that usually what radiologists would comprehend from a X-ray images. Yeah, but there are some advanced technologies that we're developing to get a pseudo CT images from the X-rays. Yeah.
So I promise I will not touch calcium now. Now we move on to Dustin. On the beyond CT, cardiac MRI is also very demanding study. As a radiologist, I have like tons of images, hundreds of images acquired for one patient. And then I have to not only look at signal characteristics, how the myocardium looks like, I have to do tons of measurements. And in the era of AI, nobody should be doing it manually or semi-automatically as well is a big crime in the present world as well. So we are in an era, we feed the MRI, we can do quantification. Can you dive us into what are the possibilities, what is presently available, and where we are looking on that cardiac MRI post-processing pipeline using AI?
Sure. And I probably can't speak intelligently to MR because we work mostly on echo, but I can tell you that it's the same in terms of...
It's the same thing. Yeah.
In terms of where AI has to help. So you're right. Just simply saying, I help you do math better is not a solution, right? And nobody will pay for that. So it really has to be, what is hidden in the information that you're given? And so I think the same you're seeing on the MR as you see in an echo is, there's a number of data that's collected back behind that is often not seen by the human eye. And so, for example, for us with echo, we only pull those measurements. Like I got a major echo. We only pull the measurements because, to be honest, there is beyond the human computation to do some of the calculations that need to be done. And we can do it in real time, and we sit directly within the workflow. So at the end of the day, as you're working, that should be given to you when you're starting to have that processing of a report to see what is actually being missed from the human eye. And oftentimes 20 to 50% of patients are going to be missed, oftentimes are misunderdiagnosed, because it's the subtle things that actually make the big difference. And so that's where I think AI is going to have the biggest benefit here. If it's doing the math, not good enough. If it has something that's reported to an outcome or linked to a mortality where you say this result is actually going to have a negative impact on the patient, you should do something. That's when AI makes a difference. And I think that's where we're all working towards.
Definitely. Patient outcomes is the biggest driving force and way beyond detection and anything that you do behind the scenes. It should ultimately help the patient in the end. And that's how most of the reimbursement codes have been generated in the past as well, right? Not going into trials and everything. So on MRI side, Xiao and Nathan, anyone, what's your take on MRI, say scar quantification, 4D MRI? I'm scared of 4D MRI personally because there's so much of data. People are big fan. I'm also a fan. I don't want to say that it is not helpful, but it's very taxing on us. So how can you reduce our cognitive overload with some of the fancy AI technologies, if you can highlight something on that aspect?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I think this is a good opportunity that I do a reverse interview. So there was a Nature paper published about 2 years ago. What that paper is about is that you give the images, the scene images and LG images, which is the bread and butter of CMI at this state. And the algorithm, the network will tell you whether that's a normal patient or abnormal patient. And it will give you some suggestions for diseases, whether it's a coronary, a cardiovascular disease, or it's a, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, things like that. So as a doctor, will you use that algorithm or will you use that tool for you, or how are you going to use that?
Yeah, I can take that question. So normal versus abnormal is not unique to cardiac care. On the chest X-ray, it's more demanding. And again, you should create algorithms that solve the need. On the chest X-ray side, we have 200 per day, 300 per day. You need normal versus abnormal. Some companies have done in Europe. Some are catching up on the United States as well. But on the cardiac MRI, it's a very niche application. Generally, you don't get normal patients like normal versus abnormal. There's an echo that has happened. Patient has a mass already diagnosed somewhere. So most of the times we are not satisfied with normal versus abnormal. But it's good to know that, you can quickly whiz past this patient, which can be normal. So there's a utility, but it is not as big as in the other modalities like X-rays or something. That's my take on that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. So we're actually seeing the opportunity here is that CMR needs to be democratized. So more people should be benefit from the power of CMR. And one bottleneck we see, there are actually two bottlenecks that we see as both a machine vision manufacturer and also the AI solution provider, is that one is the scanning time. It's too difficult to scan, right?
I was about to ask that next.
Yeah.
So scanning time and denoising kind of things.
Yeah. So as a manufacturer, we are putting the AI into the scanners. So we actually have a study with a research hospital in US. What they find that is by using the accelerated acquisition, they not just reduce the time, but they allow more patients to be in the scan room. So patients that already have heart failure, they're so hard to hold their breath, they can be in the scanner room, free breathing, just a shallow breathing, free breathing. It's very smooth. Out of 100 cases, there is only one patient that requires one more scan.
No, that's fantastic. And that's where ROI concepts comes into play as well. Because if I own a practice, I'm helping patients, but I want to do cardiac imaging. You know that cardiac imaging is very difficult to sustain for any institution because of those reasons. You can easily do brain MRIs and get the ROI, right? So again, Dustin, can you shed some light on finally how your company or you see that you can generate more ROI for the people? It's not only for radiologists that you are making happy, that's important, patient outcomes. And similarly, we never talked about really ROI component of it. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, and I think now any companies coming forward, you're going to have to think about health economics as part of your value proposition. And it's amazing if your technology is perfect, but if nobody can use it or nobody will pay for it, it won't get done. And that's unfortunate. So I think health economics are going to play a key role going forward, like we've seen in many other parts of healthcare. And then I think ultimately you're going to have to be able to show that there is an additional revenue stream coming to the hospitals. And I hate to be commercial, but that is just the fact of life. Medicine is important, but it's also a business that has to generate income. And so if that's the case, technology better be able to be used and integrated in the workflow, and that technology should have a way to either create a good health economic story, which means those patients are going to be less time in the hospital, less time getting readmitted, or you got a good ROI story saying that the technology will generate back revenue to the business.
So, final exploratory question, which I ask personally: what are you guys doing to empower the general masses or the bean counters or anyone talking about monitoring of AI? Because most of the vendors keep it so secretive. Because if I know where it fails, I will decommission that AI tool. So right now, I'm in a poor man's land building my own Power BI dashboards based on the data center, trying to do my NLP logics, which I don't have time for, writing Python codes and everything. What you guys are doing to empower people so that they are making right decisions. So CARPL has like a good kind of instance, but again, ultimately the burden lies on the people who are building it, because you know what you build more than anyone else. So how you're driving the monitoring of AI, that's the final topic of discussion. And Nathan, we can start with you.
So since we are having several application companies, right, we actually have a strong collaboration with CARPL. In that case, relying on the HR agent feature of CARPL, actually overwatching the whole experience of AI service delivery. And that's actually a good metric for us to adjusting, okay, is this AI agent good, or do I need to further develop this? Furthermore, it's like down the road, like on sales teams, like in the sales teams give us like a lot of front end, first-hand information of does this software works, does the AI works, because from data set to data set could be really different. We have a customer from China replying, oh, it's great, but then from Brazil, it's okay, it's absolutely not working. But it has some relation to how the data is acquired, right? But also has something to do with the workflow. And then intraoperativity, we see that if we have a great intraoperative integration, the data quality will vary between 40% of the data quality. So if we have strong intraoperative integration in the hospitals, we'll have acquired better data set, which allow our agent will be better trained and it will improve, and vice versa, better AI services.
Yeah. So Xiao, what's your take on monitoring? I will be interested to know that, because most of the bandwidth of a company goes into developing, and that's what Nathan said, like, let the expert take care of the monitoring component, which I believe in that as well, as long as you're working with that company with full transparency, right? You have to share all the data with them so that they can show it to me, right? So your take on monitoring and how you are tackling it, if it is different than what Nathan told.
Yeah, so I think this is so we are in a very fast-paced, changing world era now. And I think the way we evaluate, and adapting in some way to this new world also needs to be adapted. So here we have our products, the AI products, in thousands of hospitals in China and worldwide. And this is not like a one-stop shop in a way that you sell and you stop. So we keep receiving feedbacks from this large pool of customers and also data to continue improving the network. And it's really true that different regions have very different requirements. And so I think that you should never be, stop, improving the model. That's I would say the current status as the method that it is. Yeah.
So since we took a lot of time, I think we can close it. We can keep on talking about reinforcement learning and other things, how to make models better, how FDA looks at PCCP, predetermined change control plans and beyond. But I think it's such a productive session when we start with coronary calcium, dive into the plaque, hemodynamics, treatment, patient outcomes, ROI, cardiac MRI, echo, and kind of like looking into the monitoring aspect of it. So it's such a fertile ground, cardiac MRI, cardiac AI, on CT, MRI, echo, and angiography as well. So thank you so much for your time. It's such an enlightening tour for me and the audience here. Thank you so much.